So this ship is new, and it's particularly been built for the British market.
Yes, and indeed, and the biggest ship that we have seen built for the British market, the Arvia, is 185,000 metric tons. She has 16 passenger decks, 2,610 cabins, or staterooms, as I'm sure they prefer me to call them, and that means more than 5,000 passengers when she is completely full. And as you say, this extremely expensive and beautiful ship, which is due to arrive, I understand she's just sort of sailing up the channel at the moment, due to arrive in Southampton at 12:30 today, is supposed to reinvigorate the cruise industry, which, yes, was most definitely hit by COVID, probably more than any other industry. I remember having a lovely day trip, actually, from Dorset, from the beautiful town of Poole. The cruise ships themselves became a tourist attraction because they were all parked, or moored, forgive me, anchored, out in the bay, and you could get a boat trip around and sort of wave at the poor old crew who were on board.
We were just looking there, the pictures we were showing was the P&O's Iona. To put it into, because I mean that looks huge. To put it into some sort of context, how much bigger is Arvia compared to Iona?
About 6 inches, really. It's all part of the same excellence class of ship. But every time they do it, they just add a little bit on so they can say this is the biggest ship ever built. Honestly, it is quite childish, but it works. So that's there's also lots of other bits and pieces. They've got the first high altitude skywalk. This is one of these ropes experiences. So that's new for the ship. You've got something called a Sky Dome on the top deck, which opens and closes. There's something called the 6th Street Diner, if you want to pretend that you're in Miami Beach or Milwaukee while you're on board. And the funniest thing I've found while researching this is they're going to be selling second-hand stuff in the shops. There's quite an upmarket boutique where they will be selling, quotes, pre-loved handbags and other accessories. So this is going to make a bit of a change to the onboard shopping. As always, things are probably cheaper on shore.
Yeah, Stephen knows that I always, on a Sunday particularly, look for the cruise supplements and have a look through. And I've seen so many cruises being sold on the Arvia. And there's clearly a huge market now in Southampton to Southampton cruises, isn't there? Where you don't have to fly anywhere. You just get on board in Southampton, go around the world or go to the Caribbean, and you come back to Southampton.
Yes, and that's all to do with the miserable airport experience. I mean, 2022, I think, has been worse at the airports than pretty much any other year. Just as we were kind of thinking, right, well, COVID's behind us, let's all go and fly away. We've seen terrible scenes. And obviously, if you begin and end at Southampton, or indeed at Dover, at Harwich, at Liverpool, one of the other excellent ports in the UK, that's going to be a much easier experience. The first vessel, actually, the first voyage of the Arvia indeed sets off on Friday, just in time to avoid the passport strike at the UK airports, and she's sailing off to the Canaries. That one's full, but if you want to wait until the new year, then she's sailing to Barbados. There are still some cabins available, and that one's quite tempting, I must say.
Do you get a decent price on these sort of things now? Are they still for the... Is the market opened up, or is it still for the better off?
Right, it's all over the place, Stephen. Now, I checked out the price for this one to Barbados, and it's less than £100 a day. So you're getting transportation, you're getting all your food, you're getting entertainment. Fair enough, if you, like me, like a drink on board, that's going to cost you a fair bit. And of course, the excursions tend to add to the cost as well. But honestly, I've been on a number of cruises. I was on the very first one that restarted back in May 2021, and that cost me £800 for 4 days. And all we did was sort of go around in circles in the channel and go and have a look at Portland in Dorset and then come back. And you weren't allowed off unless you were on an official tour, which meant that you were getting on a bus with a mask on and you were driving around and looking at the local people and their sites. So, yeah, COVID is still hanging over everybody's heads. And of course, the Foreign Office does warn that COVID spreads much more easily in the confines of a cruise ship than it does in other aspects of life, and there's still restrictions in place. My sister has just come back from a trip to South America, where the highlight was going to be going to Peru, and they actually spent 4 days sailing past Peru because Peru wouldn't let them in. That has now changed, and you are allowed to sail, but it just shows the uncertainty, and of course the kind of people, Stephen, who tend to go cruising, who tend to be older people. They might be more concerned about COVID. So one of the ideas of the new ship is, well, let's appeal to a much broader range of people, and hopefully we can get cruising back and sailing happily.